Good evening and welcome to the front line with Joe Resinello. And yes, Justin Trudeau flips pancakes with the dexterity of a lizard. He also governs like a lizard. Sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. When the lie loses its power, you have to censor. I came across this clip. This dude is rather odd. He's got an army helmet on and sunglasses, and he's showing some good clips, I have to say, but he kind of frightens me. Play the clip.
So Pierre Poilievre posted this today on Twitter. That means that the world doesn't get to see this. Or this.
This is what we're doing it for. So they all can have peace, love, and happiness. Peace, love, happiness.
Right after that, the 49-year-old woman who uses a walker was run over by Toronto Police Service's horses that rolled through the crowd. Onlookers were heard yelling at police to stop.
Stand down! Oh my gosh! Oh my goodness! Oh my goodness! Look what you did! Look what you did to her!
Or this.
You just
I'm not gonna.
for what? Hey, what are you doing?
Failing to ID.
Hey, hey, that's assault. I've got it all on video.
You failed to ID.
Yeah, he failed to ID.
Get back! Hey! Hey! Get back!
Look, they're hurting an old man, a Canadian citizen.
Listen, the mainstream media, if you ask me, is dead. It is the enemy of the Canadian people. If you really want to get the news, you got to kind of search for it. However, there are some real freaks on the internet, and you're listening to one right now.
So the Supreme Court in America has made a ruling, and it has struck down Biden's college proposal, giving, aid, college aid, grants, money to help youth with college, university. Supreme Court shut that down. Okay. Fair enough. The Supreme Court wants to, pretend like it's fiscally conservative, fiscally responsible. That's a waste of money and all that stuff. Fair enough if that's what you think. But I think, the Supreme Court really wants to pretend like it's good with money. I think the Supreme Court should go one step further and do something about all the billions of dollars. And I mean billions. And it's not one time. It's billions every month that's going to Ukraine. Biden has just ordered another billions, along with other Western countries. Billions in terms of cash, billions in terms of weapons, aid. I saw this post on Fox News, Neocon Network, saying the plumber shouldn't have to pay for someone else's college education, which is fine. But I never hear these, Fox people, these, Hannity type people, these kind of, neocon type people. I never hear them talking about the billions. Billions going to Ukraine. To be honest with you, I'll be honest with you. I'm not a licensed plumber. I have done plumbing work before. Enough to know what I'm talking about. It's not my profession. But I know my way around toilet, around sink, around sewage. I know my way around. I would rather my tax dollars go to helping children in my country. If I was an American, which I am, I'm a dual citizen, Canada. But if I was living in America, full-time, paying taxes, that's where I was born and bred. I'd rather my tax dollars going to help children in my country get higher education instead of my tax dollars going to Ukraine.
What's going on, everybody? So today I was on a live stream that was linking Canada, US and Australian freedom fighters together, and it was all about election fraud. And we were talking for a long time. And the moment I mentioned about the fraud lawsuit that we are about to effectively launch and try to talk about the massive amount of evidence, witnesses, affidavits we had, the show cut me off. I got kicked off. I thought it was just a technical difficulty. Then I got a call from the show's host, and he texted me all the details. The show was 100% hacked. I was muted, I was kicked, and my user handle was changed from chrisskyforchange.com to chrislie4change.com. Just to let everybody know that they'd been watching the whole time and they'd waited for me to talk about what they knew I was going to talk about, which is even creepier, and then they shut it down immediately.
There are some unconfirmed reports that high-ranking military officers have told Macron if he does not bring order to the nation, they will. That's interesting. Why is it interesting? Because ultimately, it is the military that controls the power in any nation. That's the first point I want to make. The second point I want to make, if there is ever a break between the military and the leader of a nation, that's when you have a revolution. You see, ultimately, no matter what type of uprising takes place, no matter what political side you're on, in a first world nation, the military could squash it in a day. Don't even fool yourself if you think otherwise. Helicopters, artillery, tanks, squashed. But if there's a break between the military and the prime minister or the president, the party is over, the revolution is on. That is a danger that every president or prime minister always has an eye on. That's what you see in third world nations. And sadly, the nations of the G7 are turning into third world nations. Keep an eye on that. That is a metric that matters. That is a turning point in France. And if that happens, the party is over. Justin Trudeau cannot hammer a nail. He also can't make pancakes. Play the clip. Couple comments. I'm going to tell you why he can't do neither of those things. Because he's a privileged young man. Privileged people don't go into kitchens. He's probably never cooked a meal for himself in his entire adult life. Probably never. He's probably never had to hammer a nail. I bet you if they have to hang a picture in his house, he doesn't even do that. Why do I bring that up? Listen, there are people who are blessed and have things good for them and good for him. Why do I bring it up? Because that means he can't relate to you, because you have to do all those things. You see, we need a servant leader. All countries do. People who can not only sympathize with people, but empathize with them. They know the road they have traveled. Justin Trudeau has never traveled the road of the average man. He's a privileged young man. He's worth almost $100 million. Most of that money was made while he was the PM. Ask yourself that question. How did that happen? When does a politician get rich serving the people? Does that sound right? Ultimately, we need a servant leader. I'm going to tell you an old adage. You don't lead until you know how to serve. First, we have to serve God. Then we have to serve our family. And when we get that right, we serve our nation. And then all things are made. Father like son, the outspoken Alberta activists. Pastor Arthur's son is expected to be arrested for charges relating to a protest held near a public library, which is hosting, guess what? Drag Queen Story Hour. Kudos to Pastor Arthur's son. He's a patriot. Where is the rest of Canada? You got to back these people up. They're fighting for you. I love this picture. We, the Fringe, young men standing up. They're patriots. We need the adults to follow suit. Ultimately, these are the people who are fighting for you. We, the Fringe.
Joe, so I was reading LifeSite News, okay, and I here's what I don't get. Why have we allowed, as a society, both in Canada and the United States, why have we allowed the proponents of, let's call them people who would love to see a society full of stupefied people, why have we allowed them to win the war, the battle on legalizing drugs, even if it is marijuana? I don't care what their studies say. I don't believe them anymore. I believe if they pull out a study, they probably paid for that study. I believe there's an agenda with everything they do. I think they want, and when I say they, it's the oligarchs of the world, those who don't care for democracy or a constitutional republic like we're supposed to have here, like you're supposed to have in other Western nations. They don't care for any of that because that means Joe Resinello might have some power. That means Joe Pasillo might have some power. That means the guy in the street actually has rights, has power, okay, within that society, okay? But what's a great way to make you not exercise your power? Let you get high all the time. So I believe there's an agenda. And I believe that when it came to the legalization of marijuana. Well, now, again, you're reaping what you sow. All right. So you have drug impaired driving has skyrocketed in Canada since the legalization of marijuana. Joe, you drive high. It's the same as driving drunk.
Oh, you're impaired.
You're impaired, and if you kill somebody, you're just as culpable as the guy who drank a bottle of Johnny Walker Black and got behind the wheel just because what? Because you smoked something natural. That's what they're. Well, it really is natural. Yeah, but if you smoke it, something happens to your brain and it doesn't function properly. Okay, and so no, you can't get behind the wheel. You can't go to work high. Because you say, well, it's legal. Well, drinking's legal. Well, my boss could fire me if I pop a few Johnny Blacks and show up at work. My boss could tell me, yeah, I smell alcohol in your breath. You're fired. Why do we allow them to get away with this? Because this is what? Drugs are somehow innocuous. They're less dangerous than other substances. Marijuana is less dangerous. Marijuana is just as dangerous as any other drug. And now you see that all this impaired driving is leading to death, Joe. The motor vehicle death in Canada, and nobody does a damn thing about it.
Well, I have a neighbor that's a state trooper, and when they legalized certain amounts of smoking in New Jersey, he said it was going to cause havoc on the driving. Here's the deal. When you drink, you could test somebody immediately through a breathalyzer. Out with weed, it stays in your system for 30 days. You could deny it. It's probably very difficult. I don't know if there are specific tests, but it's harder. That's one piece. Another piece, to your point, it impairs your driving. Second thing, I've been at red lights driving in New Jersey, smelling weed emanating from cars.
Oh, yeah.
That's almost, I don't want to say it's common. It's happened a lot more times than I want to admit to. But it's the same thing with people texting. I see that constantly. At red lights, people looking at their phones, or when they're driving super slow in front of you, they're looking at their phones.
Right.
They're going to hurt somebody. And here's another thing. You can prove that because there's a record, an electronic record. You kill somebody. Frankly, that's really easy to prove.
Right.
But yet people do it. It's just another thing demonstrating how our society is breaking down. It's a lack of care for the other. You are behind the wheel. You have responsibility. You could hurt somebody or hurt yourself forever.
Right.
But people don't think of it that way, and they don't care.
No,
Joe,
they don't.
They don't care.
But you know what else they don't care about, Joe? They also don't care about their society. When you're high, Joe, you know what you care about? Staying high. Okay. I'm not judging. That's the way it is. You want to stay high. You like the feeling. Okay. Christopher Hitchens, the deceased famous atheist, his brother, Peter Hitchens, is the opposite of Christopher Hitchens. I'm paraphrasing. He basically said on a British talk show one time, he said, why this need? He used the word stupefy. Why this desire for a society to just continue to stupefy itself? Because they don't care. And the ones that feed them the pot, in this case, we're talking about marijuana, okay, are the ones that want to keep them that way. Because you know what you don't think about, Joe, when you're high? You don't think about family, having a family, getting married, having kids. You don't think about how high your taxes are. You don't think about the fact that it costs $8 for a gallon of milk, okay? You don't think about the fact that the government is taking more and more of your power. You just want to get high. We say it at the front line with Joe and Joe all the time. The oligarchs of this world, they sell you sex, drugs, and rock and roll. Why? So that you won't be a thinking, rational human being who doesn't like the crap that the government tries to do. So what do? They legalize marijuana. What's the result? Well, to continue with this story for a quick second, Joe, okay? This was according to a public opinion research on drug-impaired driving report. This was from 2022, stated that Canadians driving while drug impaired had become a major contributor to fatal road accidents. So the bottom line is this: not only do you have a stupefied society, you have a dangerous stupefied society, because now they're getting behind the wheel and they're killing people. Joe, when does it end?
It ends when society falls apart, and then it starts over again. And it's just the cycle that man continues to live in. It's very sad. People, for as smart as they think they are, they don't learn. They learn through putting their face on the stove, and society is breaking down, Joe.
Right.
I mean, like, you don't have to be a rocket science to see it. It's breaking down. Our civilization, basic things are falling apart. And as it continues to crumble, eventually it will hit rock bottom, and then it will rebuild itself again.
Well, you have to hope, because you got to remember something, Joe. There's people. I don't care what anybody says. Not conspiracy theory. You could show it as plain as the nose on your face. There are people that are going to benefit tremendously from the destruction of Western society, whether it's Canada, whether it's America, whether it's Europe. Now, when you think about destruction, let's say for argument's sake, when you think about the fall of the Roman Empire, okay, it's not like the buildings started to fall down. Okay, it's not like you could see it on a daily basis. Little by little, you saw that the Rome was eroding while the outside barbarian hordes were coming in, okay, and basically taking over. So I heard one learned professor say one time, the fall of the Roman Empire was more of a transition from, let's say, what you had as a 1,000-year stable government of Rome, okay, transition into something different, which later on we know became the Holy Roman Empire. My point is that you have people that are actively seeking that transition now. But what they want to ensure is that they're the ones that are going to be in power when that transition takes place. See, they really don't want people to notice the destruction going on. They want it to be subtle so that eventually, boom, they're the ones that are holding all the power. One of the best ways to do that is to make sure the population is filled with sex, drugs, and rock and roll. And then these people are going to be able to do whatever they want. Joe, I'll give you the final word.
Well, I'll say this. The people who are pulling the levels of power aren't smoking weed.
No.
And that's the thing. Nor are their kids. Successful. I mean, people will say Willie Nelson smokes weed. What's his face? I can think of his name, dude, the rapper from LA.
Snoop Dogg.
Successful. People, as a general rule, who smoke weed they're lazy. They sit on the couch. They have no initiative. It's not something that successful people do. Like people who create businesses, people who thrive in life, irregardless of your political stripe, are not high.
Joe, can I add a word? Can I add one word to what you're saying? You're saying successful. I would say responsible.
Well, there's another. That's a great
I would
word.
say those. See, I look at you and I as successful because we are both married. We both have kids. You have 5. I have 1. Okay. We get up and go to work. Okay. We don't get high. Okay. And I like my Johnny Walker Black. Not going to lie about that. I keep that for my weekends and my downtime, my leisure time. Okay. I go to work. We go and we earn money. Okay. And we're responsible people. Now, some people say, well, you're not successful. Why? Because I don't have a 7-figure bank account. I'm very successful in life. So are you, Joe Resinello. But we're successful because we are responsible. You can't be responsible for your life if you are stupefied all the time.
100%. I mean, I go into New York City on a Tuesday, 8:30 in the morning. People are smoking weed. Whether you're an investment banker or you're making French fries at Burger King, you can't do that properly if you're high.
Right.
That's not partying. That's self-medicating.
That's right.
And that's a problem. And too many people are using marijuana as self-medication. They're troubled.
Yes.
And that's not going to solve your problem. And that's what a lot of the marijuana use is. It's simply that. It's self-medication. People are doing, like I said, I go to work in New York City. People are smoking weed. I work in a very, very, very affluent neighborhood in Manhattan. People are smoking weed there, and they're smoking weed in poor neighborhoods too.
Right.
Doesn't matter. They're self-medicating, and that is a problem. And frankly, marijuana, and you said this, and you said it accurately, it opens up doors to other drugs, and those drugs lead to a horrible life.
That's right. That's right. And when you lead a life like that, don't be surprised when you wake up and you have no more rights, you have no more power. You can't put down the pot then and say, "Oh, let me get in the fight." No, no, no. You did what they told you to do. You just went out and you got high. You were sexually liberated. You worried about your own bodily gratification, and didn't worry about anything else. So when the time comes that you're crying, well, you could go and cry in your coffee, but don't come bitching to Joe and Joe, because we're not hearing it.
The baby boss is hitting the streets talking to the people. This guy says it costs him $1,500 a month for grocery bills. How do you do that and live? Play the clip.
I live mostly in Dubai, 14 years.
Yeah.
Like Canada's 3 times expensive than Dubai. It's
Really?
unbelievable. This is what I've experienced in 3 years.
$1,500 in a month
Yeah.
on grocery bills. That is, what does that work out to? $18,000 a year to feed the family. This is crazy in Canada.
Yesterday, my friend said he was paying $1,960 for his mortgage. Now he's paying $3,570.
So it went from
1960 to 3570.
Well,
He was
1960,
working for
3570.
Emirates Airline. He came here. Now he lived for 2 years. He's going back to Dubai.
Right.
He said it's not possible for me to stay here. It's expensive.
We're hearing this story everywhere. Many immigrants come to Canada because they know the legend of Canada, land of opportunity. If you work hard, you can achieve anything. Life was always affordable in Canada. People get here and they say, what the heck happened to Canada?
Yeah.
The costs have doubled. Housing costs have doubled under Trudeau. His carbon tax is driving up gas, heat, and groceries, because if you tax the farmer who makes the food and the trucker who ships the food, then you tax all who buy the food. So here's the plan. Here's my plan. Common sense plan. Axe the tax to bring home lower prices. I'm going to incentivize the cities to permit 15% more home building per year so we can build more affordable homes.
Yes.
We're going to lower income taxes so people bring home more of each dollar they earn, and hard work actually pays off. And we're going to remove the red tape for our small businesses, our farmers, and our entrepreneurs so they can produce more affordable food. Is that, and more affordable products? What do you think?
Yeah, I
You
think
agree with that?
it's much better. It's a good plan.
I was sold a bill of goods that never materialized. I went to school, I worked hard, I'm making decent money, and I'm being taxed at 40%. It's insane.
Yeah.
Why?
Like he lived all his life here. Now he's also planning to move from here. He said it's expensive. It's like more than 40% you're being taxed on your salary, right?
It's either the U.S. or the Middle East for me. I mean, if you don't come into power, I'm gone.
But don't worry, Canada. Justin Trudeau's giving you a $500 slave rebate. He wants a welfare state. It's the first step to the universal income. So don't worry. Get used to the plantation, because that's exactly where he wants to put you. Is the CBC just a super PAC for Justin Trudeau? Of course it is. Is the mainstream media the enemy of the Canadian people? We know the answer to that. Play the clip.
Let me ask you a question. I remember when the CBC sued the Conservative Party of Canada. And if I recall, it was Andrew Scheer who was the leader at the time. And he still went on CBC shows.
Yeah.
And I thought, have you no self-respect? They're suing you and you're going on the show. So let me ask you, Premier Smith. The CBC lied about you for 6 months. A wicked lie that did great damage to the reputation of prosecutors in Alberta. Claimed that they were corrupt in some way.
Yeah.
They aimed for you. They also had collateral damage in the Justice Department. Do you think you should still deal with the CBC as a news agency, or do you think you should deal with them as a kind of Trudeau super PAC?
Well, they certainly smeared everyone. They smeared me. They smeared all my office staff. They smeared the independent public service. They smeared the Crown prosecutors. And they gave ammunition to my opponents to smear me some more. I mean, the NDP should also apologize, because the NDP
But
also
are you
went
still going to do sit-downs with the CBC? Like they came to kill you.
I'll have to talk to my team about that.
Yeah, I mean...
You know what I've done? I will take their questions in a mediated forum because I do a lot of press conferences, and I think that's fair because I want to be the type of person who will take questions from everyone. But it is, I mean, I do have to consider if they aren't prepared to be fair, accurate, and balanced. If they're really only interviewing me in order to get ammunition to be the official opposition, I'm going to have to keep that in mind every time I answer a question from the CBC.
Honestly, turn off the news. They're just shoveling you talking points. They work for the Uniparty. Turn off the news. First of all, you'll be happier. Second of all, if you do your own research and you listen to my show, you will be informed. And ultimately, knowledge is power. I'll say it again. The mainstream media is the enemy of the Canadian people. They work for the Uniparty to cement their power. They are nothing but the sheepdog, rallying the sheep, leading them to slaughter. Another day on the Toronto subway. Play the clip.
Yo!
How do we get out? Oh, the train got stuck.
Progressives sure know how to run a city, don't you think? To all my Canadian American friends, if you like what we do on the front line, I'm asking you to give $1. Just $1. Production costs money. We do it for you. We are self-funded, and $1 goes a long way. That's less than a cup of coffee. In Canada, a cup of coffee might cost $5, so you're getting off easy. Please, just give us $1, and we'll keep the content coming your way. God bless you, and remember, stay free.